Hello everyone, today we are going to learn Chapter 7, The Gupta Era and Age of Tireless Creativity Part 2 from your Social Science textbook. In this video, I'll be covering each and every line from the chapter so you don't miss anything important. Make sure to keep your notebook and pen ready and take notes while watching. This will help you remember the concepts better. You can pause or rewind any time to write things down. So, let's begin. A traveler's account of Indian society in the Gupta age. Chinese traveler Faxian, pronounced as Faxian, visited India in the early 5th century CE. He set out on this long and difficult pilgrimage to visit sacred Buddhist sites, learn from renowned Indian scholars, and collect manuscripts of Buddhist texts so he could take them back to China. Faxian traveled extensively across India, observing her culture, governance, and society, and recorded his experiences and observations for the people of his homeland and for us too, since his travelogue has survived to this day. So, Chinese traveler Faxian came to India in the early 5th century CE, nearly 1600 years ago. In those days, traveling from China to India was very risky. There were no buses, trains, or aeroplanes. Still, Faxian undertook this long and difficult journey because of his deep interest in Buddhism. His main aim was to visit important Buddhist holy places, learn from famous Indian scholars, and collect original Buddhist manuscripts. At that time, India was a great center of learning and many Buddhist texts were available here. Faxian wanted to take these texts back to China so that Buddhism could spread further in his country. While traveling across different parts of India, Faxian carefully observed Indian life. He noted how people lived, how the rulers governed, and how society functioned. He later wrote all his experiences in a travel account called a travelogue. This book has survived till today and helps historians understand India's culture, administration, and religious life of that period. Below is an excerpt from his travelogue where he records his observations of the society in the Gupta era. So, the following lines are taken from the Faxian's travelogue, the book in which he wrote about his journey. In this part, he describes what he saw and experienced in India during the Gupta period. Since Faxian was a foreign traveler, his account is considered important by historians. It helps us understand Gupta society from an outsider's point of view, making it a reliable historical source. The people are numerous and happy. They have no need to register households or attend to officials. Those who farm royal land pay a portion of their grain. The king's guards and attendants have salaries. The cities are the greatest in the Middle Kingdom, that is the Gangetic Plains. And the inhabitants are rich, prosperous, and practice kindness and righteousness. So this passage from Faxian's travelogue describes the society and administration during the Gupta period. Faxian says that the India's population was large and people were generally happy, showing that life was peaceful and stable. People did not have to register their households or deal with many officials, which means there was less government interference in daily life. Farmers who cultivated royal land paid a part of their produce as tax, usually in the form of grain. This was the main source of income for the king. The king's soldiers and attendants were paid regular salaries, indicating an organized administration. Faxian mentions that the cities in the Gangetic Plains were very large and well developed. The people living there were wealthy, prosperous, and followed moral values like kindness and righteousness. So this shows that the Gupta period was a time of peace, prosperity, and good governance. Heads of Vaishya families, that is merchants or traders, establish houses for charity and medicines. The poor, orphans, and the sick are cared for. Doctors provide treatment and the needy receive food and medicine. The city has many wealthy Vaishya elders and foreign merchants with beautiful homes. The lanes are kept in good order. A record of Buddhistic kingdoms AD 399 to 414, translated by J. Leck. So this passage from Faxian's account highlights the social life and welfare system during the Gupta period, especially the role of the Vaishyas. The Vaishyas, who are mainly merchants and traders, set up charitable houses. These places provided free food, medicines, and help to people in need. Poor people, orphans, and the sick were taken care of, showing that charity and compassion were important values in society. Doctors treated patients, which tells us that medical knowledge and health care existed during this time. Faxian also mentions that the city had many wealthy Vaishya elders and foreign merchants, indicating active trade, including international trade. The houses of these merchants were beautiful, showing prosperity and good living standards. The streets and lanes were clean and well maintained. This shows that during the Gupta period, trade and commerce were well developed. People believed in charity and social welfare, and cities were clean, prosperous, and well organized. A record of Buddhistic kingdoms AD 399 to 414 is the name of the travel book, that is, travelogue written by the Chinese traveler Faxian. It was originally written in Chinese and later translated into English by J. Lake. This book describes Faxian's journey in India and other Buddhist regions between AD 399 and AD 414, recording his observations of Indian society, administration, religion, cities, and daily life during the Gupta period. Historians consider this work an important historical source because it helps us understand how people lived and how kingdoms were governed in ancient India, especially from the view of a foreign traveler. Let's explore. Read the excerpt from Faxian given above and identify the key features of the society he describes. Write down your observations and compare your notes with your friends. You might be surprised to see how differently others interpret the same text. So, when you read an excerpt like this, ask yourself questions like, how were people living? Were they happy or troubled? How did the government treat people? Was society caring or selfish? And what do we learn about cities, trade, and values? Different students may notice different points from the same passage. Some may focus on administration and others on charity or trade. This helps us understand that history is interpreted, not just memorized. Now, based on Faxian's words, let us identify the key features of the society he describes. Sample answer. From Faxian's account, we can observe the following features of society during the Gupta period. The population was large and people lived happily, indicating peace and stability. There was less interference by government officials in people's daily lives. Farmers paid tax in the form of a share of their produce, mainly grain. The administration was well organized as soldiers and officials received regular salaries. Cities, especially in the Gangetic plains, were large, rich, and well developed. Trade and commerce flourished with wealthy merchants and even foreign traders. Charity and social welfare were important values. Poor people, orphans, and the sick were cared for. Medical treatment was available and cities were clean and well maintained. People followed moral values like kindness and righteousness. Excerpts from historical accounts like Faxian's are valuable sources, but they reflect only the writer's perspective and focus at one point in time and for a limited portion of the society they describe. Let us not, however, forget that elsewhere in his travelogue, Faxian also describes the harsh treatment of the Chandalas, who were regarded as outcasts and lived outside the city limits. Outcast, someone who has been rejected from a social or cultural group, in this case, a category of people considered socially too low to be part of the Varna system. So, in ancient Indian society, people were divided into groups called Varnas. Some people, however, were kept outside this system. They were called outcasts. Outcasts were considered very low in social status and were often not allowed to live with others or enter temples or take part in social and religious activities. So, excerpts from travel accounts like Faxians are important historical sources because they tell us what a traveler saw and experienced. However, we must remember that such accounts show only one person's point of view. A traveler cannot see everything and usually writes about only certain places, people, and moments in time. In many parts of his travelogue, Faxian describes India as peaceful and prosperous. But we should not think that everyone lived happily. In another part of his writing, Faxian also talks about the harsh treatment of the Chandalas. The Chandalas were considered outcast and were excluded from the Varna system. They were forced to live outside city limits and were treated as socially inferior. This shows that while Gupta society had wealth and kindness for some, it also had inequality and discrimination. Just as you may have perceived the excerpt from Faxian's travelogue differently from your friends, a group of historians may examine the same source and draw varied interpretations from it. Historians then look at more sources to corroborate their understanding. This reminds us of the need to assess multiple sources, perspectives, and interpretations before drawing conclusions. So, just like you and your friends might understand Faxian's story differently, historians can also interpret the same source in different ways. To be sure about the facts, historians look at many sources like coins, inscriptions, other travel accounts, and archaeological evidence. By comparing these, they can get a clearer picture of history. This shows us that we should not rely on just one source or viewpoint. We need to check different sources and opinions before deciding what really happened. Glimpses of the Gupta Empire, governance and administration. Let us observe the map in figure 7.8. You will notice that many kingdoms coexisted during the same period. Some of them may have been at war with each other in their ambition to expand their control. Recall what we saw earlier about Kautilya's ideas on ruling a kingdom. He advised rulers to form alliances, that is myth, as one of the components of the Saptanga. So, when you look at the map in figure 7.8, you will see that during the Gupta period, many kingdoms existed at the same time. Some of these kingdoms fought with each other because they wanted to expand their territory. Remember Kautilya's ideas about ruling a kingdom? He suggested that a good ruler should form alliances, that is, mitra with other kingdoms as part of the Saptanga or 7 important parts of a kingdom. In the map, we can see that the Guptas and Vakatakas were allies. New kings, new titles. Inscriptions and coins provide valuable insights into the titles adopted by Gupta rulers such as Maharajadiraja, Samrat, and Chakravarti. These titles reflected their claim to supreme authority and emphasized their superiority over earlier rulers who used simpler titles like Rajan and Maharaja. So, we learn a lot about the Gupta rulers from inscriptions and coins. These sources tell us the titles that the kings used, such as Maharajadiraja, meaning king of great kings, Samrat, meaning emperor, Chakravarti, meaning universal ruler. These titles show that the Gupta kings claimed supreme authority and wanted to show they were more powerful than earlier rulers, who used simpler titles like Rajan, meaning king, or Maharaja, meaning great king. So, Gupta rulers used grand titles to show their superiority and authority over earlier kings. The Gupta rulers used various strategies, including military conquests, diplomacy, and alliances to expand and consolidate their vast empire. The last method included matrimonial alliances. A well-known example is that of Prabhavati Gupta, daughter of Chandragupta II, who was married to a prince of the Bakataka kingdom, the Gupta's neighbors to the south. Tragically, the Bakataka prince died early, making her the regent ruler of the kingdom. During her reign, she ensured that the ties between the Vakatakas and the Guptas remained strong. Regent ruler. A regent temporarily governs a kingdom for a monarch unable to do so until they can. So, a regent ruler is someone who rules a kingdom temporarily on behalf of the king or queen. This happens when the monarch is too young, sick, or unable to rule. The regent governs only until the monarch is ready to take full control. So, a monarch is the official king or queen of a kingdom. They hold the power to rule. The regent is someone who rules temporarily on behalf of the monarch if the monarch is too young, sick, or unable to rule. For example, if a young prince inherits the throne at age 5, a regent would govern the kingdom until he is old enough to rule. So, the Gupta rulers used different ways to expand and strengthen their empire, like military conquest, that is fighting and winning battles, diplomacy, talking and negotiating with other kingdoms, alliances, including marriages, to form strong ties with neighbors. A famous example of a marriage alliance is Prabhavati Gupta, the daughter of Chandragupta II. She was married to a prince of the Vakataka kingdom, the Gupta's neighbors to the south. Unfortunately, the Vakataka prince died early and Prabhavati became the regent ruler of the kingdom. Even as regent, she made sure that the relationship between the Vakatakas and the Guptas stayed strong, showing how marriage alliances were important in politics. One of her inscriptions describes her as a mother of two kings, referring to her two sons who ascended the Vakataka throne. As a devotee of Vishnu, like her father, Prabhavati is also associated with the construction of 7 temples dedicated to this god and his avatars. Some of these temples are in Ramagiri, Ramtek Hill in present-day Maharashtra. So Prabhavati Gupta was a powerful regent ruler of the Vakataka kingdom. In one of her inscriptions, she calls herself the mother of two kings because her two sons later became kings of the Vakataka kingdom. Like her father, she was a devotee of Vishnu and she built 7 temples dedicated to Vishnu and his different forms, that is, avatars. Some of these temples can still be seen today at Ramagiri or Ramtek Hill in present-day Maharashtra. Figure 7.9, the Kevala Narasimha temple dedicated to Narasimha, one of the avatars of Vishnu. According to some historians, this temple was constructed by Prabhavati Gupta's daughter in her memory. So, figure 7.9 shows the Kevala Narasimha temple, which is dedicated to Narasimha, the fierce and powerful form of Lord Vishnu. Historians believe that it was built by Prabhavati Gupta's daughter, and she did this to remember her mother and honor her memory. So this temple is not just a place of worship, it also tells us a personal story of love, respect and devotion, and shows that royal women too played an important role in shaping India's religious and cultural heritage. Let's explore. Observe the painting of Prabhavati Gupta sitting in her court, figure 7.10. Take note of the details, her attire, posture, the people around her, and the setting of the court. What do these elements tell you about her life, role, and the time she lived in? Discuss your observations in groups and share your insights with the class. So, you need to look carefully at the painting of Prabhavati Gupta and notice these things. Her attire and jewelry, she is dressed richly, showing that she belonged to a royal family. Her posture, she is sitting comfortably and confidently, holding her son, which tells us that she was a powerful ruler and regent. The people around her, there are attendants, ministers or advisors, showing that she managed the kingdom. The court setting, it looks organized and grand, reflecting the wealth and culture of the Gupta period. So from these details, we can understand that Prabhavati was an important and respected ruler. She had political authority and influence, and the Gupta courts were well organized and beautiful, which shows that the Gupta rulers were wealthy and had a strong and efficient system of administration. The Gupta Empire had a well-organized system of administration. Instead of controlling everything from a central authority, they divided the empire into provinces and granted land to local rulers, priests and chieftains. These land grants were carefully inscribed on copper plates to keep accurate records, many of which have been discovered by archaeologists in recent times. This system helped ensure proper tax collection and allowed the Gupta rulers to govern efficiently while still giving local leaders some control over their regions. So the Gupta rulers did not control everything directly from the capital. They divided the empire into provinces and trusted local rulers and officials to manage different regions. By granting land to priests and chieftains, they ensured loyalty and smooth administration. Writing land grants on copper plates helped maintain clear and permanent records. The system improved tax collection and allowed the empire to function efficiently while giving local leaders some independence. Thriving means going well, successful, or doing well. When we say trade was thriving during the Gupta period, it means business and trade were doing very well. People were buying and selling a lot, and the economy was prosperous. The primary source of revenue of the Guptas was land tax. Other sources included fines, taxes on mines, irrigation, trade, and crafts. This revenue was used for administration, maintaining the army, building temples and infrastructure, and supporting scholars and artists. So, the Gupta rulers depended mainly on land tax for their income because agriculture was the backbone of the economy. They also collected money from trade, crafts, and natural resources like mines. This revenue helped the empire function smoothly by paying officials, maintaining the army, constructing temples and roads, and encouraging learning and art. As we see once again, for such an empire to sustain itself, it had to promote a vibrant internal and external trade. In the Gupta era, India traded with the Mediterranean world, Southeast Asia, and China, exporting textiles, spices, ivory, and gemstones. The Indian Ocean Trade Network connected Indian ports to distant markets. So, for an empire like the Guptas to grow and stay strong, it was important to have vibrant trade, both within the empire and with other countries. During the Gupta period, India traded with places like the Mediterranean world, Southeast Asia, and China. India exported goods such as textiles, spices, ivory, and gemstones. The Indian Ocean Trade Network connected Indian ports to distant markets. One significant stop on the way to the Mediterranean markets was Socotra Island, strategically located in the Arabian Sea. Archaeological evidence such as pottery, inscriptions in the Brahmi script, and designs such as Buddhist stupa has established the presence of Indian traders there over several centuries, apart from traders from Egypt, Arabia, Rome, and Greece. This small island carries evidence of the rich cultural exchanges that trade promoted in the Indian Ocean. So, Socotra Island played a key role in long-distance trade between India and the Mediterranean regions because of its location in the Arabian Sea. Archaeologists have found objects such as Indian pottery, inscriptions written in Brahmi script, and Buddhist-style designs, which show that Indian traders stayed there for many centuries. At the same time, traders from other regions like Egypt, Arabia, Rome, and Greece also visited the island. This makes Socotra an important example of how trade helped different cultures meet and influence each other in the Indian Ocean world. New ideas and wonders, the classical age. As we saw, Gupta rulers were devout followers of Vishnu. This is often reflected in their coins and inscriptions. However, they also supported other traditions and schools of thought. They patronized Buddhist institutions including the renowned Nalanda University and several other Buddhist viharas, monasteries. Their approach was inclusive and open. We will explore these institutions further in higher grades. So, although the Gupta rulers worshipped Lord Vishnu, they did not force their beliefs on others. Their coins and inscriptions show their devotion, but at the same time, they respected and supported Buddhism and other traditions. By helping institutions like Nalanda University and Buddhist monasteries, they encouraged learning and religious harmony. Patronized means supported and encouraged, usually by giving money, protection, or resources. So, when the Gupta rulers patronized temples, universities, or monasteries, It means they helped them grow by providing support. This shows that the Gupta rulers were open-minded and tolerant. We will learn more about these schools and monasteries when you're in higher grades. Figure 7.11 Remains of Nalanda University. This picture shows the remains of Nalanda University, one of the most famous centers of learning in ancient India. Nalanda was a Buddhist university that attracted students and teachers from India and other countries. It had monasteries, classrooms, and libraries and played an important role in education, religion, and culture. Indeed, the prolonged period of peace and stability during the Gupta period promoted notable achievements in various fields, leading some historians to label this period the classical age of India. It was also the time when knowledge from previous eras was consolidated and compiled into numerous texts. So, because there were fewer wars and empire was stable, people could focus on education, arts, literature, and science. The rulers encouraged learning and culture, which led to great achievements. Scholars also gathered knowledge from previous generations and compiled it into important books, preserving it for the future. This is why the Gupta period is called the classical age of India. Sanskrit literature flourished with Kalidasa's works and many major Puranas. Aryabhata and Varahamihira recorded major advancements in mathematics and astronomy, while medical texts compiled and refined medical theories and practices. Metallurgy also progressed, as we saw with the rust-resistant iron pillar. This stability strengthened the economy, allowing the state to support scholars, artists, and scientists, leading to cultural and intellectual growth. So during the Gupta period, peace and prosperity allowed people to focus on learning and creativity. Sanskrit literature reached great heights with poets like Kalidas producing timeless works and scholars compiling religious texts like the Puranas. Scientists such as Aryabhata and Varahamihira made important discoveries in mathematics and astronomy. Medical knowledge was organized into clear texts and metallurgy advanced. Metallurgy means the science and technique of working with metals, including making, shaping, and improving metals. So, metallurgy is about how people make and use metals for tools, weapons, pillars, and other objects. So, the rust-resistant iron pillar of Delhi is a famous example of Gupta-era metallurgy. Gupta metal workers knew how to make strong and long-lasting iron. And the strong economy made it possible for the state to support these scholars, artists, and scientists, leading to a golden age of culture and knowledge. Chandragupta too kept himself surrounded by many learned men, poets, and artists, and his patronage of such diverse talent enriched his court greatly. So Chandragupta too, one of the most powerful Gupta rulers, surrounded himself with scholars, poets, and artists. His patronage, that is, support of such talent, made his court very rich in culture and learning. Figure 7.12, Chandragupta too goes to war, an artist's imagination from the 1920s. So this painting shows an artist's imagination of Chandragupta too going to war, highlighting his role as a warrior. Let us take a look at some of the remarkable figures of this period. So now we are going to look at some of the most remarkable people of the Gupta period. Aryabhata. He lived in Kusmapura near present-day Patna, a famous center of learning around 500 CE, and authored a short treatise of mathematics and astronomy called Aryabhata. He gave formulas to calculate the motions of the sun, the moon, and the planets, and proposed that the earth spins on its axis, which explains the alternation of day and night. He gave the length of a year as 365 days, 6 hours, 12 minutes, and 30 seconds. Just a few minutes off from the modern value, which is 365 days, 5 hours, 48 minutes, and 45 seconds. Aryabhata was one of the greatest scholars of ancient India. He lived in Kusmapura, an important center of learning during the Gupta period. In his book Aryabhata, he explained advanced ideas in mathematics and astronomy. He gave methods to calculate the movements of the sun, moon, and planets. He also proposed that the earth spins on its axis, which explains the occurrence of day and night. Aryabhata calculated the length of a year as 365 days, 6 hours, 12 minutes and 30 seconds. Whereas modern science calculates it as 365 days, 5 hours, 48 minutes and 45 seconds. The difference between the two is only 23 minutes and 45 seconds, which shows how accurate his calculations were even without modern instruments. So, Aryabhata's ideas were far ahead of his time and laid the foundation for later scientific studies. Aryabhata also provided a fair estimate of the size of the earth and a correct explanation for solar and lunar eclipses. His work became the foundation for further scientific advances in India and beyond. In mathematics, Aryabhata described a number of techniques of calculation and equation solving, some of which you learn at school without knowing that they were first formulated 1500 years ago. So Aryabhata did not only study the movement of heavenly bodies, but also tried to understand the earth itself. He gave a reasonably accurate estimate of the earth's size and correctly explained that eclipses occur due to the shadows of the earth and the moon, not because of myths or supernatural causes. His ideas influenced many later scholars in India and even outside the country. In mathematics, Aryabhata introduced several calculation methods and ways to solve equations. Interestingly, many of these methods are still used in schools today, even though students may not realize that they were developed more than 1500 years ago. Varahamihira, he was a mathematician, astronomer and astrologer from the same period. He lived in Ujjaini, a city famous for its tradition of learning and scholarship. His encyclopedic work, Brihat Samhita, covered a wide range of subjects from astronomy and astrology to weather forecasting, architecture, town planning, and even farming. His ability to observe the world, apply logical reasoning, and combine it with traditional knowledge made him a pioneer in science. So Varahamihira was a great scholar of the Gupta period who lived in Ujjaini, a city well known for learning and scholarship. His book, Brihat Samhita, is an encyclopedic work that brings together knowledge from many fields such as astronomy, astrology, weather forecasting, architecture, town planning, and agriculture. He was known for observing the world carefully, using logical reasoning and combining knowledge with tradition, making him a pioneer in science. Let's explore. Let's join Bhavisha and Dhruv with their time machine in the time of the Guptas. You're getting an opportunity to meet Aryabhata and Varahamihira. What would you ask them? Divide the class into 2 groups and create a series of questions for an interview with them. So now let's imagine Bhavisha and Dhruv take you back in time to the Gupta period. You get a chance to meet Aryabhata and Varahamihira. Now divide the class into 2 groups. Prepare questions for Aryabhata regarding mathematics and astronomy, and prepare questions for Varahamihira regarding astronomy, astrology and other sciences. Think about what to ask. You can ask questions like, how did you calculate the length of a year so accurately? Can you explain how the earth spins on its axis? How did you discover techniques for solving equations? What inspired you to study astronomy and mathematics? And sample questions for Varahamihira. How did you observe weather patterns and predict rainfall? Can you explain the role of astrology in daily life during the Gupta period? How did you plan towns and buildings using your knowledge? Which subjects in Brihat Samhita do you think are most important today? Kalidas. Little is known about Kalidas's life. Legends suggest that he was once ridiculed by others, which motivated him to work hard and transform his life. He is renowned for his contributions to Sanskrit literature and exquisitely refined poetry. So we do not know many facts about Kalidasa's life. Popular stories say that he was once laughed at by others, and this encouraged him to study hard and become a great scholar. Kalidas later became one of the finest poets in Sanskrit literature. His poems are known for their beauty, depth, and elegant language, and they continue to be admired even today. Exquisitely means extremely beautiful, delicate, and carefully made. So, when we say Kalidas is known for his exquisitely refined poetry, it means his poetry is very beautiful and finely written. One of his celebrated compositions is Meghadutam, or the Cloud Messenger. It tells the story of a Yaksha, minor deity, who after being banished from his home by his master, sends a message to his beloved through a passing cloud. Apart from the many emotions of love, the poem describes in great detail the landscapes, the weather of North India on its journey to the beloved. So, Meghadutam is a lyrical poem by Kalidas that combines emotion and imagination. The story is about a Yaksha who is separated from his beloved and asks a cloud to carry his message to her. Through this journey, Kalidas beautifully describes the rivers, mountains, cities, and seasons of North India. The poem is admired not only for its love story but also for its clear and lively descriptions of nature and weather. Figure 7.14, the Yaksha's message to the clouds, a scene from Meghadutam. So here you can see the Yaksha, that is a minor deity, is sending his message to his beloved to a passing cloud. The cloud is imagined as a messenger carrying his words and emotions over long distances. This painting also shows the beautiful landscapes and weather described in the poem as the cloud travels. The scene highlights the poem's focus on love, longing, and nature's beauty. Don't miss out. Did you know that Ayurveda got codified during the Gupta period? This Indian traditional system of medicine has much older roots, going back several centuries BC. Texts like the Charaka Samhita and Shushrut Samhita, which laid the foundation for Ayurvedic practices still in use today, were compiled and given their final shape during the Gupta period. Codified, arranged or written in an organized and systematic way. So, codified means arranged or written in an organized and systematic way. For example, during the Gupta period, Ayurveda, that is the traditional Indian system of medicine, got codified. This means that the knowledge about medicines, treatments, surgery, and healthy living was carefully written down in an organized way in important texts like the Charaka Samhita and Shushrut Samhita. Although Ayurveda has been practiced for many centuries before, the Gupta period saw the final compilation of important texts, the Charaka Samhita, which focuses on medicines and treatments, and the Shushrut Samhita, which includes surgery and medical knowledge. These texts became the foundation for Ayurvedic practices that are still used in India today. They deal with a wide range of topics, the cataloging and diagnosing of diseases, their treatments, the importance of diet in maintaining good health, the preparation of medicines and surgical techniques advanced for their time. Importantly, Ayurveda emphasizes holistic healing and a deep connection between the mind, body and nature. So, Ayurvedic texts give detailed knowledge about health and medicine. They tell doctors how to recognize diseases and the right ways to treat them. These texts also teach that eating the right food is very important for good health. They explain how to prepare medicines and describe advanced surgical methods for that time. Most importantly, Ayurveda focuses on the whole person, not just the illness. It shows that the mind, body and nature are connected and all must be balanced for a person to stay healthy. So with this, we have completed the part 2 of the chapter, The Gupta Era and Age of Tireless Creativity. I hope you found it easy to understand. If you want to see more videos like this, don't forget to like, share and subscribe to our channel. Thanks for watching. We will see you again in our next video. Bye bye.